देशिकमे शरणं भव शङ्कर देशिकमे शरणं भव शङ्कर देशिकमे शरणं भव शङ्कर देशिकमे शरणं विदिताखिलशास्त्रसुधा जलधे महितोपनिषत्कथितार्थनिधे हृदये कलये विमलं शरणं भव शङ्कर देशिकमे 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 शरणं।
ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। Namaste. Today I have been asked to talk about the first sutra of Brahmasūtra, Athāto Brahmajijñāsā. It is a sutra or aphorism of the nature preface to the entire text of Brahmasūtra. The words are Atha, Ataha, Brahmajijñāsā. Atha means thereafter, Ataha because, Brahmajijñāsā, Jijñāsā, the desire to know Brahma. So word Atha is explained as Anantaryartham, meaning that it indicates that something has happened, because of which Brahmajijñāsā, or the desire to know Brahman, arises. Something has happened in this aspirant, because of which the desire to know Brahman has arisen. Because we cannot will the desire. Desire has to arise. And the nature of desire that will arise will depend upon the disposition of the mind. Sattvat sanjayate jnanam. Lord Krishna says that if the mind is predominant in sattva, then knowledge arises, or before that a desire for knowledge arises. Meaning that for desire to know Brahman to arise, some preparation is required in terms of creating a disposition of mind, which in Vedanta is called Antahkarana Shuddhi, purification of mind, or otherwise also called the sadhana chatushta sampatti. Asa, thereafter, which means sadhana chatushta sampatyanantaram, having acquired this fourfold qualification, sadhana chatushta, the fourfold qualifications. What are they? Viveka, Vairagya, Samadhi Shatka Sampattihi, Mumukshutvam cha iti. These well-known qualifications of Viveka, discernment, discrimination, Nitya Vastu Viveka, the ability to discern between what is permanent and what is impermanent. What is the means of happiness? What is the nature of happiness and where is the happiness? Just to recognize that happiness is essentially my own nature, that yes, I always want to be happy, and not knowing where the happiness is, I've been searching for happiness out there in the world. To recognize that happiness is my own nature and I have to discover the happiness. This is the first viveka or discernment that is required, which enables me to recognize that I of the self is of the nature of happiness and the most important entity in my life. Then we create vairagya, dispassion. Because happiness is already my nature, and still I don't feel happy, which is the most amazing thing. That even though happiness is my nature, I don't feel happy, which means there is something which is an obstacle to experiencing happiness, that is called avidya or ignorance. Ignorance that creates false notions is what deprives me, false notions about the self is what deprives me of the happiness which is my own nature. And that is how happiness and self is already myself. And still I do not feel happy. It is ignorance that creates that distance. And therefore it is ignorance that is to be removed. Ignorance of the self is what deprives me of the happiness and also further creates all the sorrow in my life. And therefore the priority is to remove avidya, ignorance of the self, and for which knowledge is the means. Because ignorance is like darkness, and darkness can be dispelled only by light. Similarly, ignorance also can be dispelled only by knowledge. Brahmajijñāsā. Therefore, the jijñāsa, desire to know Brahman. Desire to know Brahman as my very self. Brahman is a word that is derived from the root bruh. Bruhi vruddhau, in the sense of growth, in the sense of bigness. So Brahman means that which is big. How big? Unqualified big. Bigness without any, unconditionally big, which means limitless. So Brahman means limitless. Brahmajijñāsā, the desire to know Brahman, the desire to know the limitless as my very self. That is how specifically the desire must be understood. And this happens when the mind enjoys a disposition, as we said, which is the result of this fourfold qualification or antahkarana shuddhi, purification of mind. Let us say that the mind should become sattvic, which presupposes that a person should have lived either in this life or in the previous life. Lived and perform actions such that actions become the means of removing impurity of the mind. And impurities, raga, dveshas, attachments and aversions, as Lord Krishna prescribes, karma yoga, performing karma or action with an attitude of offering to Ishvara. So this is what a person should have done in this life or the previous life. Tametam vedanuvachanena brahmanaha vividishanti yajnena danena tapasa anashakena. Upanishad says that brahmanaha vividishanti, the brahmanas, the aspirants seek to know, meaning that they want to create in their mind a desire for knowledge. And for that, yajnena danena tapasa anashakena. Therefore, they undertake yajna, dhanam, tapasarya. Yajna, the worship of Ishvara, dhanam, the charity, tapas, the austerity. Having lived a life in this manner, one has attained that antakarana shuddhi or purification of mind, because of which that desired Brahmajijñāsā, that desire to know Brahman has arisen. Then there is a question of fulfilling that desire. And what we do depends upon the nature of desire. If the desire is to know Brahman, then we should do what is necessary in order to acquire the knowledge of Brahman. How do you acquire the knowledge of Brahman? By listening to the exposition of the statements of Upanishads, which have Brahman as their very subject matter. Upanishads are devoted to revealing the nature of Brahman as the very self, and therefore Atmavare Drashtavya, Shrutavya, Mantavya, Viditatmanand. The Bhudaranyaka Upanishad says that Atmavare Drashtavya, Atma, the self, must be known as an immediate reality, for which Shrutavya, it must be listened to from the lips of a teacher. Here Shravana means vichara, meaning that the disciple performs a vichara or deliberation upon the statement of the Upanishads. With the help of the teacher unfolds the meaning of the statement of the Upanishads, with the help of which the disciple performs that vichara or deliberation upon those statements. And purpose of vichara is tatparya nischaya, to ascertain the tatparya, the purport of the statements of Upanishads. What is it that the Upanishads seek to convey? That's called tatparya. Because Upanishad is in the form of words. The Shruti is talking to us. And therefore, we have to ascertain what is the intended meaning of the statements of the Shruti, statements of the Upanishads. Their merely grammatical meaning will not suffice. To understand really the intended meaning, for which we require a teacher who knows this, who not only knows them but who has made it a reality of his or her life. And when these statements are unfolded by a competent teacher like that, that is what enables the listener, the disciple, to undertake that vichara or deliberation upon the meaning of the statements. That's called Shravana. So Shrutavya, the self must be listened to, meaning Vicharayitavya. We must perform the vichara or deliberation upon the statements of the Upanishads. So that Shrutavya forms the basis of the first sutra, Athāto Brahmajijñāsā. That Shravanam means only vichara. So Athāto Brahmajijñāsā, where Brahmajijñāsā is understood as Brahma vichara. Shrutavya, Atma must be listened to, Atma must be deliberated upon, And therefore, Brahmajijñāsā kartavya, Brahmajijñāsā should be performed, but Jijñāsā means desire. Therefore, the word Brahmajijñāsā is explained as Brahma vichara. Athāto Brahma vichara kartavya. But then why don't they say Athāto Brahma vichara? No. Athāto Brahmajijñāsā, because Jijñāsā or desire to know Brahman has to arise. Then only the vichara or deliberation that is performed will become meaningful. And there was something should be done, that's what atha, thereafter. Something has been done earlier, meaning that acquiring the antahkarana shuddhi, purification of mind, because of which the jijñāsā, the desire to know Brahman has arisen. And thereafter, in order to fulfill that desire, we have to carry out the Brahma vichara, the deliberation upon Brahman, with the help of the statements of Upanishads. So that is what the scripture Brahmasūtra is all about. Brahmasūtra, or the aphorisms on Brahman, which is some 550 sutras, there the Sutrakara, Bhagavan Vedavyasa or Badarayana, takes up these statements of the Upanishads and performs the vichara or deliberation. And Bhagavan Bhashyakara, Adi Shankaracharya ji, has explained to us by Bhashya, the commentary upon these sutras. The sutras, the aphorisms by nature, are so brief that it would be beyond most people to understand exactly what they mean. And therefore we need Bhashya, commentary, explanation by none less than Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya to explain what these sutras or aphorisms mean. And this first aphorism, Athāto Brahmajijñāsā, Atha thereafter, Atah because. What is because? Again Shankaracharya explains that because the Upanishads say Brahmavid apnoti param, the knower of Brahman attains param, attains limitless. Now, limitless cannot be attained because whatever is attained is always limited. So, even though the Upanishad says the knower of Brahman attains limitless, it is interpreted to mean the knower of Brahman discovers the self to be limitless, which means that Brahman, which means limitless, has to be known as the very self. And that is what fulfills the Purushartha or the human end, which is moksha or unconditional freedom. That's what a human being is seeking. Unconditional happiness or unconditional freedom. That is called moksha, and that freedom is attained by recognizing that the unconditional freedom or unconditional happiness I am seeking is my own self, meaning that it is the attainment of what is already attained, and for that knowledge alone can be means. For attaining something that is not attained, karma or effort becomes the means. But for attaining what is already attained, but not known that it is attained, then it is ignorance that separates me from what is to be attained, and there the knowledge becomes the means. To explain this, the Vedantic teachers tell a famous story of the 10th man, which everybody knows, and what the crux of the story is, that these 10 boys went on a trip, they crossed the river, and the leader decided to verify whether all of them reached safely or not. So ask all of them to line up. Counts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Hey, we were 10 when we left and we are only 9. He invites the other friends now to count in his place. Each one of them only counted 9 and they concluded that the 10th man is lost, 10th boy is lost. They searched for the 10th missing man for the whole day and naturally they could not find. Fortunately for them, an old person was passing by and saw the children very sad and asked them, "What's the matter?" When they told their story, then the old man said, "I know where the 10th man is." "Where is he?" "You are the 10th man." Meaning the 10th man is already accomplished. What separates the 10th man from myself is ignorance that I am the 10th man. In all these cases of accomplishing what is already accomplished, knowledge is a means. That is why the knowledge of Brahman, knowledge of self basically, recognizing that I am what I have been seeking, that the limitlessness that I am seeking is my own self, that Brahman is my own self, and this Brahman, the limitless, has to be known as the self. So Brahmajijñāsā. Now, Jijñāsā means the desire to know. How did the desire to know come? As I said, by acquiring a favorable disposition where this desire arises. Interesting thing is, desire to know can be about, is Brahman known or unknown? The question is asked. The object of desire is Brahman. Brahmajijñāsā, the desire to know Brahman. Brahman that you want to know, is it known totally or totally unknown? If it is totally known, there is no question of knowing Brahman. If totally unknown, then an unknown entity cannot become the object of desire. Understand? I may desire to go to Timbuktu only if I have heard there is some place called Timbuktu. If I never heard about it, never knew about it, the desire to go there will never arise. So question is, Brahman known or unknown? If it is known, then there is no need for desire, no need to know because already known. Unknown, then the desire to know will not arise. So Brahman is both known as well as unknown. What do you mean known as well as unknown? The Vedanta will explain that Brahman is known generally, but not particularly. The general knowledge of Brahman is that is Brahman, that is God, Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta Svabhava. God is of the nature of Nitya, eternal, Shuddha, ever pure, Buddha of the nature of knowledge, Mukta, ever free. There is God, Brahman, such as that. That is what is known in general. The Samanya Jnanam is there, the general knowledge is there. But Vishesha Jnanam, that Brahman is Atma, Brahman is my own self, that is not known. And therefore, this is where the Jijñāsā or desire to know can arise. When the object of desire is known in general, but not known in particular. Right? Yes, there is Brahman, there is self, and Brahman is such and such as limitless, but not known that Brahman is my own, the particular Brahman aspect of Brahman or the self. You can call it even self also, but everybody knows the self. The general knowledge of self is always there. Aham asmi sadabhami kadashindaham apriya. I am, I always shine, I never dislike myself, which means that asti bhati priyam. Sachit ananda is the nature of the self. But that Satchidananda is what is the dimension of Satchidananda? That I am, that's all right, but that I am is limitless, Satchit Ananda is limitless, non-dual, self of all, that is not known, and therefore in our life we know ourselves that I am conscious, I never dislike myself. The general knowledge of self is there, the particular knowledge that I am Brahman, I am limitless, I am non-dual, that Vishesha Jnanam or particular knowledge is not there. That is how Brahman or the self can become the object of desire to know. Thus, Brahman falls in the classical category of that which can become the object of desire to know. Athāto Brahmajijñāsā. Thereafter, therefore, the desire to know Brahman. What is therefore? Again, Upanishad says, Brahmavid apnoti param. The knower of Brahman attains limitless. Attainment again is, becomes limitless. Meaning, discovers the self as limitless. Discovers the self as Brahman. And that is the means of attaining the limitlessness. Knowing limitlessness is attaining limitlessness. That's the Paramapurushartha. The ultimate human end is attained, moksha is attained by this knowledge. Ataha, because Upanishad says that knower of Brahman attains limitless, therefore there is a need or is a reason to know Brahman, because knowing that I will attain the Paramapurushartha or moksha, the ultimate goal in my life. Ataha Brahmajijñāsā. Brahmana Jijñāsā, Brahmajijñāsā, Jñātam Ichchā Jijñāsā. The desire to know is Jijñāsā. Brahmajijñāsā, Brahmana Jijñāsā. The desire to know Brahman is Brahmajijñāsā. As we said, when the proper preparation is there, then the desire to know Brahman automatically arises. And that's how the vichara or the deliberation begins. Here, again a question is asked. How come you say that Atma is not and still unknown? Everybody knows the self I am, but who I am, there are so many different opinions, or so many confusions, or so many delusions, I should say, Brahma, about Atma. Somebody says body is Atma, the Charvaka says the body is Atma, other Charvaka says prana is Atma, third one says sense organs are Atma, fourth one says mind is Atma, another one says buddhi, intellect is Atma, Kshanikam, the momentary consciousness is Atma, Shunyam, non-existence is Atma. All these different notions about Atma prevail. And if we accept any one of these notions without a proper deliberation, that Atma is Karta, the doer, somebody's Atma is doer, somebody's Atma is Bhokta and not Karta, like Sankhyas would say. Naiyayikas would say Atma is Karta, Sankhya would say Atma is Bhokta. Just because this is the opinion of the great thinkers, if we accept this opinion without subjecting them to proper deliberation, Bhashyakara says there will be nothing but anartha or sorrow in our life. Because Karta means doer is also limited, Bhokta experience also is limited. And thus, they think that Atma is a limited entity. By knowing Atma as such, as a limited entity, nothing will be accomplished. I will only know that I am limited, and that will always leave me totally dissatisfied with my own self. Understand the main problem in our life is dissatisfaction with our own self. We know the self. How do you know? We know the self as a limited entity. Limited in time, limited in place, limited in attributes. And so I know myself as a limited entity. Unfortunately, that is the cause of my sorrow. Taking myself to be a limited or inadequate entity is the cause of all my sorrow. And therefore, and the opinions that other people give, that Atma is Karta, Atma is Bhokta, etc., all of them only seem to confirm this notion that Atma is limited. So there is no way that you can arrive at the limitlessness of Atma by your own thinking. Only the thinkers or philosophers have based their conclusions on the notion that the world is real, the duality is real, I am different from the world, and therefore Atma is going to be limited because I am different from the world. Their conclusions are all based on giving reality to the universe, to the duality. And that is where Vedanta says that Vedanta Nama Upanishad Pramanam. Our intellect is not the Pramanam, is not the means to arrive at this understanding. It is the Upanishad that's the Pramanam. Meaning that Upanishad reveals the true nature of Atma, and we have to understand what the Upanishad means, Tatparya. What is the intended meaning by the Upanishad? The Tatparya Nishchaya, or the determination of the purport of the Upanishad, has to be arrived at. That is how Shabda becomes Pramanam. They call it Shabda Pramanam. How does Shabda becomes Pramanam? Shabda becomes Pramanam by knowing the meaning of the word Shabda. What is the meaning of a word? Is the meaning of a word or a statement determined simply by rules of grammar and syntax? Says no. Meaning of the word is the tatparya. What is the intended meaning? What is the meaning intended by the speaker? With what meaning in mind does the speaker use a word or a sentence? Here the Shruti or Upanishad is the speaker, telling us, Tattvamasi, that thou art, and we have to know what is the Tatparya, what is the meaning intended by the Upanishad. That is why the Tatparya Nishchaya, the ascertainment of the purport or the intended meaning by the Upanishad is important. How do we know what Upanishad intended when they made statements? So that is why we require the teacher who knows, who is recognized what Upanishad means, who is therefore competent to explain to us the meaning intended by the Shruti. And that's how the Tatparya Nishchaya, the ascertainment of the intended meaning of the words of Upanishad is important. And that is the purpose of Brahmasūtra. Brahmasūtra is meant for ascertaining the meanings of the statements of Upanishads. What meaning? What is intended? Tatparya Nishchaya. What is the intended meaning of the statements of Upanishads? This is Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi, and many such statements are there. And what is the meaning intended? When you are Brahman, which I is Brahman? Is the body Brahman? Is prana Brahman? Sense organs are Brahman? Mind is Brahman? Intellect is Brahman? Ego is Brahman? If I depended upon simply my understanding, this is how my conclusion will be. Which is where we require a teacher. What is meant by you here? And who are you? And so that inquiry or this deliberation is carried out that who am I? I cannot be the body because body is something which is an object of my knowledge and awareness. I cannot be sense organs, they are also objects of my awareness. So also mind, so also intellect. I'm the witness of all of them. What is my nature? What is the nature of the witness? Consciousness is the nature of witness, which is what the Upanishad reveals to us, that you are of the nature of consciousness. Consciousness which has no boundary, because all boundaries are included in consciousness. Meaning you are conscious of the boundaries also. You are conscious of time, you are conscious of place, you are conscious of all the boundaries, and therefore the consciousness is free from the limitation of time, place, or any of the boundaries. A boundless consciousness is the nature of you, and this is how, when the self is known, then I become free from all my notions of the sense of limitedness. So this is how the statements of Upanishads are unfolded. That's what Brahmasūtra does. Takes various statements of the Upanishads. Bhashyakara say, Tikakara say that from the garden of the Upanishads, the beautiful flowers of nature of the statements are plucked and form as a garland. And the thread of sutra is Brahmasūtra. Brahman is the very thread which is the content of all those statements of Upanishads. That's how Brahmasūtra is an extremely important text which teaches us the Tatparya or the very purport of the Upanishads. Athāto Brahmajijñāsā is just a statement of preface. It is not Brahmasūtra, meaning that it doesn't tell us what Brahman is. They will say in the next sentence, what is Brahman? Athāto Brahmajijñāsā, what is meant by about Brahman? Bhashyakara's next statement says that Janmādyasya yataha, Janmādi asya yataha, asya jagataha, of this universe, Janmādi, the creation, etc., the creation, sustenance, dissolution of this universe, yata, from which is Brahman. So, Athāto Brahmajijñāsā. Therefore, the inquiry or desire to know Brahman or deliberation upon Brahman. What is Brahman? Janmādyasya yataha. Brahman is that from which is the creation, sustenance, dissolution of this universe. So, this is how the whole thing proceeds one after the other. Interestingly enough, Sutrakara has started with Tatastha Lakshana of Brahma as the material cause of the creation, not the Swarupa Lakshana of Brahma. Yato va imani bhutani jayante, yena jatani jivanti, yat prayanti abhisamvishanti, tad vijijñāsasva tad brahmeti. The teacher says to the disciple, hey disciple, may you seek to know that from which is the creation of the universe, by which the universe is sustained, under which the universe goes back after dissolution, which is the material cause of the universe. That is Brahman, and may you seek to know that. So, Brahman is presented as the very cause of the creation in Brahmasūtra and in Upanishads. Although the Sutrakara starts with describing Brahman or as the material cause, in fact, Brahman is both the material as well as the efficient cause. The Upadana Karanam as well as the efficient Upadana Karanam as well as Nimitta Karanam, material cause as well as the efficient cause. So that which is the material as well as efficient cause of the universe, that is Brahman, and may you seek to know that. If that is the cause of the universe, because yataha, therefore the teachers explain that yataha, the fifth case, can mean not only upadanam, can also mean nimitta. So therefore Brahman is the abhinna nimitta upadana karanam, both the efficient as well as the material cause, and may you seek to know that. Know that as what? Know that as the self. The loop has to be completed. Not only do you know Brahman as the cause of creation, but ultimately that cause of creation has to be known as my own self. Then only it is. Therefore, even though the subject matter is knowledge of Brahman, really speaking, the subject matter should be the knowledge of the self. But that is the most important and valuable entity in my life. If Brahman is limitless, that's nice to know. Brahman is material cause, thank you. Efficient cause, good to know. What do I have to do with that? Hey, you are that Brahman. And that means that you are the material cause, you are the efficient cause, you are. What does it mean? That means that you are the very basis of the whole universe. And that means that there is nothing that is separate from you in the universe. You are the one that includes everything. You are all inclusive self. That means you are limitless, boundless self. And nothing is apart from meaning you are non-dual self. If this is how the self is known, then it is the most satisfying knowledge. Then I realize that I don't exclude anything. I am the all-inclusive. I exclude nothing. Nothing is excluded by me, and I am not excluded by anything. My problem is being excluded is what is something that makes me sad and happy. I realize that I do not exclude anything and nothing excludes me, because I am the one, non-dual and only one. But then you must be very lonely. If you are only one, then you must be lonely now. If you are one among many, then you can be lonely. You are the one. The question of loneliness does not come. It's a question of fullness, that you are full and complete. So knowing that I am one, full and complete, non-dual, meaning that I include everything. I am included by everything, not excluded by anything. I include everything. I do not exclude anything. There is no distance at all. Because Upanishad says, Brahmatam paradat, Brahma atmana anyat veda. That Brahman means X, Y, Z. It ousts you, it rejects you if you look upon that as different from yourself. If I look upon you as different from me, you are not going to accept it and you are going to reject me. Meaning that all of Vyavahara based on duality is nothing but rejecting each other. And therefore that's the basic cause of sorrow in our life. Apart from the local gains and etc. stuff like that, basic cause of sorrow is that I feel excluded by the world. Because I exclude the world by looking upon the world as different from me. And thus the cause of sorrow is this mutual exclusion. That is where Upanishad says that no, you are one, non-dual. There is nothing separate from you. You include everything. And therefore, you are also not excluded by anything. There is no cause for sorrow at all, because being excluded is the cause of sorrow. This is how the Upanishads explain the very basis of this universe. The first sight consists of the variety of names and forms, consists of all the dualities and divisions apparently, with the conclusion that I am different from the world and world is different from me, which conclusion has arisen because I look upon myself as confined to this body, mind, sense complex. That is how I am born. I am born with adhyasa, or the superimposition upon this upadhi. And the speaker before me talked about adhyasa. And Bhashyakara in fact begins the commentary upon Brahmasūtra with a discussion on adhyasa. It's a very brilliant discussion, The Bhashyakara Shankaracharya establishes there is adhyasa in our life. The very vyavahara, the fact that people do what they do shows that they are ignorant of the true nature of self. That everybody takes himself or herself to be a limited being. Whereas in fact, as Upanishad says, Tattvamasi, you are limitless. So taking that as the basis, taking what the Upanishad says as the basis, that I am limitless, taking myself limited is the result of, is a Brahma or a delusion, result of ignorance, and that is called Adhyasa because something limited is there, namely this body-mind complex. I take that to be the self, that's how I superimpose the dharma of the anatma upon atma and atma upon anatma. And that's how the Adhyasa Bhashya begins, that we are doing something that is impossible to do. The anatma and atma are in different locations and we'll still lump them together. So that is Adhyasa, which is the product of ignorance, and therefore the case for knowledge. To build up the case for knowledge, Bhashyakara demonstrates how there is ignorance in our life. How do you say there is ignorance in our life? Because there is Adhyasa in our life, superimposed in our life, and Adhyasa, just as taking a rope to be a snake, is the result of ignorance of the nature of rope. And taking myself to be a limited being is the result of the ignorance of the true nature of the self. So, by establishing Adhyasa, ignorance is established, and then the case of knowledge is established. And then, now we know why we should study Brahmasūtra, because all that is necessary is to know the true nature of self. And so it's called Brahmasūtra. All the Bhashyakara call it Sharirika Sutra. Sharire Bhava Sharira. It is sutra pertaining to the one that obtains in the body, namely the self. He called it Shariraka. That ka pratyaya is applied there. A sense of sort of ninda, that this pitiable self, it is the study or deliberation upon the nature of the self, which is thought to be limited, which in fact happens to be Brahman or limitless. Therefore, the cause and need for Brahmasūtra, for the knowledge of Brahman, or I should say, the knowledge of the self. Athāto Brahmajijñāsā. And when this kind of viveka is there in our life, all I said is a very tough job for a person to really arrive at. But therefore it does require some exposure to satsang, to a teacher. It may be that there may be some great person who may arrive at it by himself or herself, but most of us require the help, assistance. If you are fortunate enough to be exposed to the teaching by some kind, compassionate teacher who guides us and helps us, so that is when we realize that the problem in my life is my own self. The words of my teacher, Swami Dayanandji, you are the problem and you are the solution. How can I be the problem to myself? The self that is misunderstood is a problem, and self that is rightly understood is a solution. And therefore, right understanding, right knowledge of the self is the solution to all the problems in our life. And therefore, Brahmajijñāsā or Brahma Vichara Kartavya. Jijñāsa word is by Lakshana Vritti, interpreted as Vichara. Both Brahmajijñāsa also is right. Athāto Brahmajijñāsā. Atha thereafter, after the sadhana chatushta, after purification of mind, since there arises in the desire for knowledge, and also since Upanishad says that knowing Brahman or knowing the self is the means of attainment of moksha, therefore the deliberation, vichara upon the nature of Brahman, meaning deliberation upon the meanings of the statements of Upanishads, of which the subject matter is Brahman or the self. So, Atma avare drashtavya. Upanishad says the Atma must be seen. Sir, how do I see Atma? Shrutavya, mantavya, didhyasitavya. Must listen to the unfoldment of Atma from the teacher. You must deliberate upon what you understood from the teacher and assimilate that teaching, nididhyasitavya, make it your own. All of this is part of vichara. So, Shravanam is the primary thing. Mananam, nididhyasan are in order to confirm and firm up the Shravanam. So, Shravanam, Mananam, nididhyasanam together becomes the vichara or the deliberation upon the nature of the self. And this is what drashtavya, shrutavya. So, Atma avare shrutavya, that becomes the basis of this first Brahmasūtra. That Atma must be listened to, meaning that Atma has to vicharahitavya, Atma must be deliberated upon. And so Brahmasūtra carries out the deliberation about the Atma as shrutavya in response to what the Upanishad says. Vijijñāsavya. Elsewhere also it is said that Atma must be vijijñāsitavya, must be sought to be known in particular. So this is the Athāto Brahmajijñāsā, the very first sutra of Brahmasūtra, and that forms the basis of the rest of the sutras. It's a preface, as I said. Itself doesn't tell you anything about Brahman. It's a preface. When we understand the sutra, then there is a motivation as to what is the nature of Brahman. Kim tat Brahma? Athāto Brahmajijñāsā, now the vichara or deliberation of Brahman is carried out. Kim tat Brahma? What is that Brahma? Then they will reply, Janmadhyasya, etc. So that's the nature of Brahman, which presented, as I said, as Upadana Karanam, also Nimitta Karanam, as the cause of the creation, and that Brahman is you, the cause of creation is you, meaning that you are non-dual, you are limitless. This is the basic thrust of the Brahmasūtra, which is the thrust of all the Vedanta Upanishads. And the first sutra, Athāto Brahmajijñāsā, is a preface or a background for carrying out the vichara or the deliberation. And from second sutra, that vichara will be commenced. And this is where I will also conclude my discussion with Om Namaste. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.
विदिताखिल शास्त्र सुधा जलधे महितोपनिषत् कथितार्थनिधे हृदये कलये विमलं शरणं भव शङ्कर देशिकमे शरणं भव शङ्कर देशिकमे शरणं भव शङ्कर देशिक